Hey, welcome along to the final part of our series, Cash Conversations. I'm really excited about tonight because we're going to bring this whole series together. But as I do, or before we sort of launch into that, I want to just talk to you about one thing. As a pastor, I get to have some really special moments. I get to talk with a lot of people. And so when people are going through really good things in life, it's really exciting because I often get to sit down and celebrate with them and hear from them and talk about the good things that are going on in their world. Yet, I also get to have conversations with people when they're going through really difficult seasons, or where they're in a place where they've got carrying maybe a lot of regret and a lot of pain, and I can sit across the table, I can be walking alongside someone who really is sharing from the heart about a lot of stuff that's going on in their world. And I've found when people are in that place of regret or in that place of difficulty, it's either, I say self-imposed, and that's a little bit mean, but it's self-imposed where we've done something stupid and now we're having to live with the consequences of that. We've all done something stupid, we've all done something bad, and now we're having to live with the consequences of that, so I'm sure you know what that's like. And then there's the other side where life happens and things happen that are no fault of our own, and yet we find ourselves live with a lot of regret and with a lot of pain and with a lot of hurt. Well, when it comes to the first type, the self-imposed type of pain and regret and just where we're sort of mad at ourselves, the crazy thing is I've found as a pastor, there's normally two things that sit at the root of all of these. Do you know what they are? Sex and money. When people have a lot of regret, a lot of pain, it's often got to do with something that's happened sexually, or it's had to do with financial decisions that they've made. And I find this fascinating because the Bible and the New Testament in particular talk a lot about sex and about money. Yet if there's two areas of our life as Christians we often sort of push back on, or we're like, I'm just going to ignore this area, I'm just going to ignore what God has to say, it's often to do with sex and money. And yet that's the area where so many people have so much hurt and pain and frustration. And then I'm just saying that as a preface as we wrap this series up, because this series has been all about money. And your tendency and my tendency, and for a lot of Christians, is when it comes to money, I'm going to do things my way rather than really trusting what it is God has to say. But I just know from experience, and you probably knew too, when I said there were two things, sex and money probably came to your mind, or they would have if I gave you a little bit more time to think about it, as being two of the key drivers of just that pain and regret. So I just want to really encourage you to maybe lean in, to pay attention, because man, what the Bible has to say about how we deal with money is so profound and is so wise. So let's continue with this series, Cash Conversations. And last week I used this quote from Mark Twain. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. And when it comes to money, I don't know where you are at. I don't know how old you are. I don't know how you're doing financially, man. I don't know where you are on that spiritual spectrum. But the reality for all of us, the secret of getting ahead is to get started. And so I really do hope the series has maybe motivated you, if you've never started to do things smartly or wisely with money, that this series has been a bit of a catalyst to help you get started. And I encourage you to don't delay that any further. For some of you, this series has been a good reminder that you've learned this stuff in the past and you've applied it and you've practiced it and maybe you've slipped. So it's been a good reminder. For some of you, this series has been just, yeah, because this is what you've been doing for years and you know the power of it. So no matter where you are, just know the secret of getting ahead is getting started. And what we've said is, when it comes to money, this is how people tended to live. They earn what they can, or even access what they can on credit, so they can spend what they can buy more, and they're going to figure it out later. But we've really said this is not the best way to live, because when it comes to finances, all of us really want three things. We want to use our money to make a difference. We want to make a difference in the world around us, and our money can allow us to do so. We want to live with a sense of financial peace, so we're not always stressed and worried and concerned about money. And thirdly, we want to build a financial foundation or a financial legacy that can long outlive us. And there's one thing, no matter where you sit spiritually, three things we all identify. And this way of living is never going to allow us to do one, let alone all three of those things. So we've said, hey, here's a better way to live, a financial formula, if you like. We've encouraged you to memorize. It's nice, it rhymes, it's easy. Give, invest, live on the rest. We're going to give to God first. We're going to invest to prepare for the future, and we're going to live on the rest. We're going to give, invest, live on the rest. And it's really, really simple. And if we do that, if we give, we're going to be making a difference. If we invest, we're going to be able to build a safety net, so we're going to have that sense of financial peace. And if we invest, we're going to eventually have something that can well outlast and well live beyond us. But what that means is we've got to live on the rest. 2 weeks ago, we really spoke about the give side of the equation. Last week, we spoke about invest. And so today, I want us to focus on the live on the rest side. And when it comes to this, well, what I understand is most people have a desire to give. Most people have an intention to invest, yet they are so caught up in the terms of the way that they live their life and their lifestyle that they live on everything rather than live on the rest. In fact, in our culture today, I've already said this earlier in the series, a huge amount of people actually live on 105% of their income, meaning they're spending more every week than they are bringing in, which leads to a very, very dangerous financial place. And the challenge we have is because we have the intention to give or we have the desire to invest, but we never quite get there. And that's a real dangerous place to be, because it's not our intentions that get us where we want to go, it's our actions. Andy Stanley says it's the direction you're going, not the intention, that determines your final destination. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we're taking actions, not just having the right intentions. Oftentimes we can appease ourselves. I intend to invest, so we put a tick in that box, but we haven't invested anything. Oh yeah, I want to give, I've got a desire to give, but I've never given anything. Well, you're no better because you've got the intention. No, it's the action that actually brings the difference. So what I want to do right now is help make this a little bit more practical. Come on, have a look at this with me. Here's a little graph. If we're going to have a percentage-based living program. And what I encourage you to do is identify first what percent you want to give, then what percent you want to invest, and that will then determine how much you live on. If I'm going to give 5%, invest 5%, I'm going to live on the rest, which is 90%. I might be able to give 10, invest 10, live on 80. In fact, I might be able to give 30, invest 30, live on 40. What I encourage people to do is actually keep these two numbers the same. If I'm going to give 10%, I'm going to invest 10%. If I can give 20%, I'm going to invest 20%. And this is the reason why. Every time you invest, you actually set yourself up to have more money the following year and every year subsequent. Did you know the crazy thing in New Zealand is when you actually give, you automatically get more money next year because you get 1/3 of the amount you give back. So actually, by giving and investing, well, you're actually setting yourself up to move forward into the future. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to pick a percent. Now, I don't know what the percentage is for you. I think 10% is a really good number. But hey, if that's too much of a stretch, you go 5 and 5. Or if 10% is too easy, go 20, 60. Just what I want you to do is go, man, I'm going to be intentional about how much I give, how much I invest, and then I'm going to live on the rest. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to live first and see what's left over here. No, we're going to give, we're going to invest, and we're going to live on the rest. We're going to be content with bringing that percentage down, lowering our standard of living so that we've got the money available to give and to invest, and we'll make sure we only live on the rest. Do you know what's crazy? Is all of us, every one of us lives on a percentage of our income. You're doing it right now. The reality is most of us just don't know what that percentage is. You might be living on 80, you might be living on 90, you might be living on 100 or 102, whatever that percentage is. You and I, we all live on a percentage of our income. What I'm wanting you to do is choose that percentage. I want you to have intentionality around it so you're living with a percentage that you're choosing, not just going through life and it's sort of happening to you. We want to be intentional about it because if we're going to be responsible, remember we have to be intentional. So pick a percentage. What percentage can you live on? And that will then, how much are we going to give? How much are we going to invest? But I really do encourage you, try and make that a small, get here, and that will look after itself. Honestly, we've just got to get prepared to change our standard of living. In fact, if you can do this, If you can get yourself to a place where you can say, man, I'm going to give this percent, invest this percent, and live on this, can I tell you, that is what I'd call a keystone habit. In his book, The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg says, keystone habits are small changes or habits that people introduce to their routines that unintentionally carry over into other aspects of their life. He says, if a keystone habit is one habit that will lead to plenty of other good habits in your life. The reason this is a keystone habit is because when you say, man, I'm going to give this percent, do you know what that means? You're going to start to have an increased heart for others, because where our money goes, our heart is also. And if you're a Christian watching this and you want to have a greater heart for God, well, you need to give some of your money to the Lord. You give it to His church, because that's going to increase your heart for God, because where your money is, there your heart's going to go. We're called to love people around us. The easiest way we can start to love others is when we actually give to them, because when we give to them, our heart for them is going to increase. So we're going to have a better relationship with God. We're going to have a better relationship with people. We're going to invest our money. We're going to be proactive. We're going to be future focused when we take this percentage of our income and we invest it. Do you know what that's going to do? It's going to bring a sense of peace. That's going to remove some worry off of our life, because we're doing this with our investments. And guess what's going to happen then? You're going to go through life a little bit easier, because this is a keystone habit. You're going to get used to not living on all of your income, so that's going to push the need for greed out of your life. You're going to find that you're less greedy, because it's not all about me anymore. No, I'm giving first. I'm thinking for the future, and then I'm living on a smaller amount. So it's not just about me. I'm going to defeat greed. This is a keystone habit. I promise you, if you do this, you're going to see it play out in so many other areas of your life. Because in order to actually do this, you're going to have to start to have a financial plan. Guess what that's going to do? That's going to ensure your dollars go further, because you know where they're going. It means you're going to have an idea of what's coming up. Because you're investing, you're going to be growing your ability to make money into the future. This is a phenomenal thing. It's a keystone habit if you're willing to do it. Give, pick a percent, invest, pick a percent, live on the rest, pick a percent there. But again, like I said before, the challenge that a lot of us have, oh, we never do this and we never do that, is because all of our money is getting spent here. So what I want to do for the rest of the session is just talk about how we can lower this percent so that not all of our money needs to be spent on our life to fund the lifestyle that we desire, or maybe that we've become accustomed to. Let's have a look at what Jesus has to say. He says this in Luke 14. He says, suppose one of you wants to build a big tower. Won't you first sit down, estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. This person tried to do it and they ran out of money. What an idiot. That's what Jesus is saying people would say about you. So of course, if you're going to build a building, you're going to sit down, make sure you've got the resources and the funding available to finish the project. Can I say, if Jesus says this about us building a building, isn't it just as important that we do it when we talk about building a life? That we want to sit down and make a plan for where we're going financially, so we don't get halfway through our life and realize we've run out of money, or we haven't got the resources to do all the things that we want to do. If we're going to actually be smart with our money, we need to have a financial plan. Do you know what that's called? That's called a budget. It's called a budget. Solomon says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. If you want to get poor, do everything in a haste. Do everything without thinking, and you'll end up poor. Yet, if you want to lead to profit, if you want to make money, you've got a plan, because you're going to be diligent, and diligence requires a level of planning. Think of it this way. How many of us have found ourselves poorer because in our haste, because of in our desire to buy something, we saw something we wanted, we just bought it, and we bought something we didn't really need with money we didn't really have to impress people we don't even really care about. And all of a sudden we've got this expensive thing that's now hidden away in a cupboard in our house because of our haste, because in a quick impulse decision, we bought something we didn't have the money to buy. You know, one of the smartest things you can do financially is actually just pick a number and say, any purchase above that amount, we're going to sit on for at least 24 hours. It just removes the pressure and say, oh, I really want it. It might sound like a kid, but that's what you and I often do when we go shopping. I really want it. And we just swipe away, pay away, and our haste leads to poverty. No, we've got to have a plan, because the plans of the diligent lead to profit. And so if money could talk to us, I think one of the things money would say is this. We've got to have a budget, but money would remind us that a budget says yes as much as it says no. What a budget does is it's simply us telling our money where we want it to go. A budget says yes. A budget says where we can spend money, not just where we have to limit our spending. See, when it comes to life, most of us there's certain things that mean a lot to us, where we're happy to spend a little bit more money than other people. It might be shoes. You might want to spend more money on shoes. It might be dining out, eating out. You might be someone that I love to eat out, so I'm happy to spend more than other people when it comes to eating out. You might be a holiday person. I really want to go on holidays, so I'm going to take a greater percentage of my income and use it for holidays than others. It might be about a wardrobe. It might be to do with a certain hobby. You might love mountain bike. I've got to buy a new bike and new stuff all the time. It might be my golf equipment. It might be I've got to have the latest technology, so I'm always trying to stay up to date with the latest phone and watches and all that sort of stuff. It might be cars. You just love spending money on your car and just making it better and better and better. All of us have things we like to spend money on. What a budget does is it enables us to go, hey, what are the areas I really want to spend money on? And it also helps us identify the places where, hey, we have to probably scale back or spend less to enable this to happen. See, all of us can do all of those things. You see, you're someone, I like to go out. I like to go on nice holidays. I like to wear nice clothes. I want to have nice shoes. I want to have the right stuff for my hobby. I want to have all the right furniture in my house. I want to get my hair cut all the time, whatever it might be. But the truth is, none of us can actually afford to spend over amounts of money on every single one of those categories. What we have to do is we have to choose which areas we want to say yes to, but then we also have to start saying no. If I want to eat out frequently, that's cool, but it might mean I've got to wear a slightly different wardrobe than what I want to wear, or I might miss out on certain holidays. I've got to say no to that to enable me to eat out. Or I might be, man, I really want to go on those nice holidays. So I'm going to just wear more, cheap, mid-range style of clothing. Or I'm going to buy cheaper shoes rather than real expensive over-the-top ones. I'm going to limit how often I eat out so I can save money to enable me to have these holidays. What we've got to understand is a budget is going to say yes as much as it is saying no. So we want to just actually think through what are those key things where if I'm going to spend a little bit more, where do I want it to be? And then how am I going to cut back in all the other areas in my life in order to allow me to do that? And remember, if we're going to choose to live on a percentage of our income that's below that 100 mark, then what we're going to generally have to do is be quite budget conscious. We're going to have to realize, man, there's some areas of life where I really do need to skim. And what a budget does is it allows us to do that. See, I love that the thought that a budget is simply us telling our money where to go. So someone says this, so they say, what you want to do is give every dollar a job. So every dollar that comes in, it's got a job. That dollar is going to go to looking after my car. That dollar is going to go to providing groceries for my family. That dollar is going to go to paying the mortgage or the rent. That dollar is going to go here, there. Every dollar has got a job, and a budget says what each dollar's job is. One thing I encourage you is to set a budget, because you should be knowing where your dollars are going. You should know where your money goes. Dave Ramsey, he says, a budget is you telling your money where to go rather than wondering where it went. How many of us get to the end of a cycle, whether it's a 2-week cycle or a monthly cycle, and go, where did all that money go? Well, a budget allows you to know where it goes rather than getting to scratching your head going, where has it gone? A budget really is us telling our money where to go. And I know. There's some people that are watching, you love the idea of budgets and you get your spreadsheets out and you do all your stuff, and that's awesome. But there's probably a bigger percentage that are like, budgets, get away from me, I don't want to talk about it. No, budgets are so important because they help you prioritize what really matters to you, to your family, to those that are around you, and you can then work towards that and make sure you're doing something with your money. Honestly, creating some level of financial budget is so important. Remember, the plans of the diligent lead to profit. The only way to move forward well with money is to have some level of a budget in place. And here's something else I just really feel I need to say. Yeah, when it comes to life, I've seen this illustration about the wheel of life. And in the wheel of life, there's different spokes. This one spoke might be your family, and one spoke's friends. One spoke is finances. One spoke's health. One spoke's like personal growth. One's about career. And when it comes to life, all of us are really disciplined in some of those spokes and really struggle with others. Now, what you've got to understand is if the idea of budgets and money, you're like, I really struggle, I can't be disciplined with money. I bet in some of those other spokes, you're incredible. You might be really disciplined when it comes to friends. You might just know how to maintain friendships, to be in contact with friends, to look after those friends, to care for those friends, to make sure those friends know that you genuinely have a concern and care for them. Or you might be really good when it comes to health. You're just really good at maybe eating the right nutrition, at getting out, doing the exercise that's required. And those disciplines might come easy to you. Or it might be when it comes to learning and personal growth, you find it really easy to have a discipline to listen to podcasts, to read the right books, just to be growing and expanding your mind. All of us have real strengths in some of these disciplines and weaknesses in others. Not one person's better because they're good at that one and not that. But what we've got to understand is all of those areas take some level of discipline to get through life well. And so if you're someone who's going, I hate budgets, I just want to encourage you to lean in and do this anyway, because it will make such a profound difference for you and for those around you. And if you want to get to that place where your money really has been used to make a difference, where your money, you get to that place, you've got that sense of financial peace and you can build that financial legacy, it's going to require a budget. Please, please, please trust me on this. Okay, let's keep going. Another thing Solomon says in Proverbs is this. He says, the rich rule over the poor, and this is the key part, and the borrower is slave to the lender. The borrower is slave to the lender. Solomon's talking to us about the danger of debt. And he says, don't do debt. Don't enslave yourself. If you're going to borrow money, you're going to become a slave to the lender. You're going to be trapped. And if we were to put this in today's terms, we might say, man, you're getting a credit card limit and you're starting to spend on your credit card. You're starting to wrap a chain around your arms. And you're signing up for Afterpay and you're buying things on Afterpay. There's more chains that are going around you. And you've got this overdraft that you're getting. It's another chain that's going around you. And you're borrowing money to go on holiday. It's another chain that's going around you. And then you're getting a payday loan. It's a big chain that's going around you, and it's enslaving you and it's trapping you. And this is what we see happen. That people see this and they think, man, this is a great opportunity. I can get this and it's interest-free and blah, blah. But what they're doing is they're putting chains around them, because when you get credit, what you're doing is you're paying that off. You're spending money that you haven't yet earned, which leaves you in a really hard place. Because when you're spending money you haven't yet earned, you have to earn that money just to pay for yesterday's decisions. So it means part of your future paycheck is already gone before it even comes in, and it starts to slow you down. Plus, because of the interest and stuff that gets charged, you end up paying way more for things than what they are worth. We don't want to do debt. If money could talk to us, if cash could convey something, it would say debt is a trap. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. Do you know why debt's a trap? Because you know what traps do? Traps look good. They lure you in. You think, man, this is something good. And then before you know it, bang, it hooks you. So you think about when you go fishing. When you put something on the end of that hook, you put some bait on the hook, you drop it down. That bait has to be attractive for a fish, so the fish wants to come in, bite it. And that bait in the water, or that lure reflecting off the light, looks so good for that fish. And that fish is looking at it and eyeing it up, and it comes in, and it's excited because it's about to get some good food, and it bites down, and then the hook goes straight through its jaw, traps it in, and it's stuck. It looked so good. It promised so much, but there was a hook hidden in it. And that's exactly what happens with debt. It looks so good. Have the lifestyle you want now. Have the house, have the interior decoration that you want now. Drive the car of your dreams today. Go on holiday now. All of that, and it's just got that big hook that's hidden below it. Debt is a trap. We want to avoid it like we possibly can. A couple of weeks ago, I saw Robert Kiyosaki on Instagram, and he wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad that I've referenced a bit in this series. He said this. He said, I'm rich because I borrow money and buy assets. Okay, what's an asset? An asset is something that makes you money. If you buy a house and you rent it out, that's an asset because it's returning income on what you bought. If you buy a car that you use as an Uber to drive people around and that car's returning you money, that's an asset. If you buy stocks or shares, that's an asset because it's returning you money. He says, I'm rich because I borrow money and buy assets. He says, you're poor because you borrow money to buy liabilities. What's a liability? A liability is something that's going to cost you money. If I buy a car just for my own personal use, it's a liability. It's going to cost me money. I'm going to have to get it serviced. I need insurance. I have to pay for new tires. I have to get the warrant of fitness done. I have to just continuously fill up with petrol. All of that stuff, there's ongoing costs. It's a liability. If I buy a phone, it's a liability. Why? Because I have to pay my phone plan every single month. I could well drop it and have to get it repaired. If I've borrowed money, I've then got to make payments every week or month to pay that phone off over time. So people get poor because they borrow money to buy things that are going to cost them more money in the long run and that actually devalue over time. He says, I'm rich because I buy assets that can make me money. When it comes to debt, we can use debt to buy assets. We want to be really smart with them. We want to limit our risk. Buying assets is fine. Buying liabilities is silly because it's going to cost us money. We're literally paying to pay money. It's crazy. So we don't want to do debt. If we're going to get to a place where we can give, invest, live on the rest, we've got to really limit debt because that's going to take so much out of our margin. So many people will be in a place where they could give and invest if they didn't have debt. If they just rewound the clock and didn't take debt, they'll be able to financially have margin to give, to invest. But because debt's there, they can't do it. So if we're going to try and live off a lower percentage of our income than 100, what we've got to do is we've got to avoid debt or it's never going to happen for us. And one thing, maybe you're watching this and you're really struggling with debt. Maybe you're looking back and going, man, I can't believe I'm in this situation. Why didn't someone tell me this sooner? Why wasn't I exposed to this 20 years ago when I needed to hear it? Can I just say, there's an organization called CAP, Christians Against Poverty. And what CAP do is they actually get alongside people and they help people who are really struggling with debt. They will actually get alongside you, help consolidate all your loans and create a pathway for you out of debt. So if you're in a place where you're really, really struggling with debt, the number one thing I want you to do is look up CAP as soon as this is finished, get on the phone, book an appointment and go and see CAP because they will help you better than anyone else get out of debt. And that's a service that's actually free to you and they'll actually get alongside and really, really help you and support you. So please, 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 if that's you, make sure you reach out and see CAP. That is the perfect next step for you. All right, let me continue. The last thing that Cash would say to us is live like no one else so you can live and give like no one else tomorrow. Live like no one else today. Be willing to make sacrifices today. When all of your friends are going out and buying that car on ticket and they're driving those nice vehicles and you're still sitting there in that car that's like, please God, please let it start this morning. And every morning you're praying that prayer. It's good for your prayer life. You know the car. I mean, we've all had one at some stage in our life. And you're still driving that bomb. Just be like, that's all right. I'm living like no one else now. And tomorrow I'll be able to live and give like no one else. But when everyone else is filling their house up with brand new furniture and all this real nice decorative stuff and their houses look like they've just come straight out of the architecture magazine, and you're like, man, I've got my parents' dishwasher, I've got my auntie and uncle's couches, I've borrowed these beds, and man, live like no one else now. Why? So you can live and give like no one else later. Make sacrifices today. Say no to that consumeristic mindset. I've got to have the latest. I've got to have the greatest. I've got to have this and I've got to have that. I'm going to say no to that. I'm going to fight that. I'm going to live like no one else now. People will say, why do you drive that? Why do you live like that? Why do you do that? And you don't have to tell them the answer, but you can, because one day, if I don't take all this debt now, if I start to find a way to be able to give and to invest now, soon I'll be able to live and give like no one else, but I've got to pay the price now. I'm going to pay now and I'm going to play later. Because if I play now, I'm going to pay a whole lot more later. I'm doing it the right way. I'm paying first, playing second. Live like no one else now, so that you can live and give like no one else. And Paul, when he was writing the letter to the church in Philippi, he encapsulates this so well. He actually gives us the key to be able to do this. And that key is contentment. This is what Paul says. He says, I have learned how to be content. There it is. I've learned to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I've been in situations where I've had nothing. I've been in situations where I'm so poor and I've learned to be okay in those situations. I've also lived in situations where I am affluent, where everything's given to me and I've learned to be okay in those situations. He says, I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it's with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. And that secret is learning how to be content. See, this is so powerful, team. The greatest thing we can do when it comes to money is to find out how to be content. Rather than praying for more, pray for more contentment with what we've got. See, how many of us didn't have found ourselves wanting something that we didn't even know we needed just a few minutes earlier? Well, we're scrolling through Instagram and an ad pops up and it's this really cool thing that we just now need to have. We didn't even know it existed 3 minutes earlier. Now we must have it. We're trying to scheme about how we can get it. Look, we've got to be content. Because the crazy thing with the way that our world works is as soon as you buy something, it's not long and there is something greater, something better. You buy the latest phone, a year later the new model's out, that's even better, that's even faster. You buy the latest car, again, the next year, and a better model, a faster model, a more fuel-efficient model becomes available. And then no matter what it is, there's always something better coming next. And what we've got is this appetite for more. We always want more. We always want the latest and we always want the greatest. We always want the new and the improved. The marketers play on this. But the reality is, so often we don't even know there's a later and greater, that there's even more out there until we are exposed to it. So we want to just limit some of the things that we might be exposing ourselves to. But we've got to learn to just be content. I might not have the greatest car, but man, it gets me where I need to go. It gets me there without a huge amount of stress. It doesn't cost me too much to fill up. Man, it works for me. Now, I don't need to have the latest phone. My phone's able to send the messages that I need it to send. It's able to run my calendar for me. It's able to do this and this and this. Man, I've got to be content with what I've got. I don't need to keep searching for more. We've got to fight the appetite that's in us. Because if we don't suppress that appetite, if we don't restrict that appetite, do you know what? It's just going to grow, and it's going to grow, and it's going to grow. And no matter how big it grows, and no matter how much it consumes, it's never going to be satisfied. It just can't. That's why the key is contentment. And Paul makes that so clear. The key is contentment. I've got to learn to be content with what I've got. But here, I've got to show you this, because the next verse that comes next is crazy. The next verse, in fact, is we're going into the Olympic Games at the moment, and what you often see in athletes and in sports teams and individual events like the Olympics is they have tape around them, and a lot of Christians will write particular Bible verses on their tape to inspire them, to motivate them. And the next verse that comes after these is the verse that you most commonly see written on people's sort of tape, on their hands, on their bands, when they're playing sport. Let's have a look at what that verse is. Right. It's this: for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. When Paul said that, I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength, he is not talking about lifting more weight. He wasn't in prison writing this letter, getting buff, trying to get strong, and goes, I can do anything through Christ who gives me strength. Another rep, put another 10 kgs on. No. He was talking about contentment. Contentment. And see, when it comes to contentment, that is where we really do need God's strength, because it's so easy to be discontent. That I'd say what Paul, in a way, could be saying here is like, man, it takes a lot of focus and desire to lift just that little bit more weight. But I'd say it takes something even stronger to get to that place of contentment. That place internally where I'm content. That we know how much effort and focus goes into running that little bit faster. But man, the power and the discipline needed to get to contentment is even greater. And that's why we need to do it through Christ, who will give us the strength to be contentment. Maybe the greatest prayer you can pray when it comes to money, when it comes to possessions, is, God, help me be content. Make me content with what I've got. So as we've gone through this series, each week I've tried to give you a few questions just so you can ask, to have some cash conversations of your own. So here's some for this week. What percentage of our income do we want to live on? What is that percentage for us? What areas are there in which I or we can reduce our spending? Well, where's some places we can scale that down? What areas are there that I like to have a little bit of extravagance in? What are those things for you where you like to spend that little bit more money? You identify and put that into your budget because it's going to help you. If all you try to do with the budget is minimize everything, you can have a very boring existence. Find a couple of things we can have a little bit more extravagance and it's a little bit more fun. But then here's what I want to ask you. This is the key one. If you apply this, give, invest, live on the rest for the next 5 years, what will your financial position look like? And then how will that make you feel? How will that really make you feel to be in that position? And maybe you can change that to 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, depending on your age. But just ask, what will my financial position look like? And how will that make me feel? Because that, my friend, is a powerful, powerful thing. As we wrap this series up, what I want to do is just encourage, right at the start, I said as a pastor, as I sit down with people, that those areas of regret and pain, sex and money. Yeah, there's another sort of cliche saying, but it's sort of cliched because it's true. And this saying says this. This saying says, if you want to know what someone really values, look at their bank statement and look at their calendar. Look at where they're spending their money and look at where they're spending their time. If you know where someone's spending their money and where they're spending their time, that's going to show you what truly matters to that person, where their heart really is. Earlier this year, we did a series called Restless, about slowing down, about finding rest in a stressful world, right? And one of the big things I challenged you to do and encouraged you to do was to take that Sabbath, to take that day a week where you rest, and in a way that pushes back against this desire for more. What I'm doing in this series is I've encouraged you to financially take that step back and say, okay, I'm going to trust God with my time. I'm going to prioritize Him there. But what I want you to do is prioritize Him with your money. I'm going to give. I'm going to invest, and I'm going to live on the rest. This is where the rubber hits the road, team, because honestly, where our time goes and where our money goes really shows what truly matters to us. So what are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your money? And what it really comes down to is a matter of trust. Do I really trust God? Do I really trust what He has to say? Remember, we talked on the giving side, He said, test me in this. Do I really trust God enough that I can put Him to the test? I encourage you, I implore you to put God to the test. I want to see you trust Him. As a pastor, my job is to encourage you to trust God as much as you can, to help you see that He is a God who is faithful. He is a God who is worthy of our trust, that He is a God who always comes through. Don't trust what Clint says because Clint, but you can trust what God says because God is super trustworthy. I hope I'm somewhat trustworthy, and I've proven that to you over the time that I've known you, but I'll tell you what, God is fully trustworthy. You can trust Him. Because when you think of any relationship, what underpins that is trust. Where there is no trust between two people, there's no relationship. If I don't trust you, we can't have much of a relationship. But where there's huge amounts of trust, there is a very, very strong relationship. What God wants from you and from me is our trust in Him, because that really proves that we love Him, because we can really trust Him. And what I want for you is to see your trust in God grow and grow and grow. And I know this is an area where so many people struggle to trust God. In fact, if you didn't, you probably wouldn't be normal. That it takes a huge amount of faith and trust to trust God with our money. Say, okay, God, I'm going to give, invest, live on the rest. But I'll tell you what, it is worth it. It is worth it. It is worth it. So we're going to play your song. And as the song plays, I want to encourage you to say, okay, God, help me trust you more. Help me trust you with this area. For some of you, you might be able to just say, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for the fact that I've been able to trust you with this area. And thank you for the fact that you've proved so faithful. And maybe your eyes will start to tear up as you think through the way God has taken care of you and provided for you as you've trusted Him in this way. But if you're in a place where you're like, I don't know if I can, I really pray that God will speak to you and remind you that He is trustworthy, that He challenges us to put Him to the test in this way. So enjoy the song, and then I'll come back and pray for you.
In the darkness, we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes, to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom coming and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the cross, for even in your suffering you saw to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sake you died. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. In the morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who'd come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born. Then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not kneel, shall not faint. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Oh,
All right, let me pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much that you're a God who's trustworthy. I thank you that, man, it's so easy for us to sing about the fact you're trustworthy. It's so easy for us to do Bible studies and talk about the fact you're trustworthy. Yet, man, sometimes it can be really hard for us to put our faith into action and really trust you. And so I pray for myself, I pray for everyone listening, that you'll help us to really trust you in the area of finances, in the area of our money. I pray you'll help us to not be people that honor you with the words that we sing or the words that we say, but to honor you with all that we do as well. And so, Father, I just know there's some people that are watching and, man, they just don't see how this can work. Father, I pray you can just help them see that, man, you're not a God who wants anything from them, but you're a God who wants everything for them. I pray, Father, for those that are watching that are just so thankful for the fact that, man, they got taught maybe a long time ago the power of giving, of investing or saving and living on the rest, and the fact that, man, throughout their life they've seen you come through and provide in miraculous and powerful and special ways. And so, Father, I just pray that everyone can experience that. I pray you'll give them that ability to trust you, to say, man, I'm going to give, I'm going to invest and live on the rest. And we thank you that you're a God to whom we can put so much trust in, because you are so trustworthy. I pray this in Jesus' name. We all said, amen, amen, amen. Hey, again, team, thank you so much for joining us at LifeStitch online tonight. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you back here next Sunday as Anna starts a brand new series.